until that person picks up their weapon of choice, is it meant for murder, to harm another human being. Until
obviously, if you want your or a Buick, no, I mean, if you want your kids to grow up and know how to be able to feed themselves, and you want to teach them how to go hunting, then obviously, yeah, they can go in a rifle, and I think that's normally how that's viewed. But obviously, yeah, a handgun, it's a little bit different, and I don't think it's so much the concealment factor. I think it's just the more of a common sense, practical standpoint of it. And two, I think a lot of people misunderstand, they think all these mass shootings are done by rifles and stuff. One of the worst mass shootings was actually done by a guy with 2 handguns. Had nothing to do with the rifle. And again, not to get too far off topic, a lot of people think that the AR-15, again, is an assault rifle or it's a military grade and also the crazy stuff, which it's not. And I would say you're probably better off using an AR home defense because you have a better chance of, you'd have more capability of actually fending off an attacker. Because, I mean, obviously you're not trained at the same level as a sheriff or something to where you're going to be able to control your adrenaline and your emotions and everything else. Yeah, you're going to need more rounds. I recently heard somebody say that, why do you need a rifle that holds so many bullets? Everybody should just be restricted to 1 bullet. Like, okay, that's great. So the person that breaks into your house, you've got 1 shot to hopefully deter them from hurting you. And at the same time, you're thinking that person that is breaking into your house is going to abide by those same rules and laws.
You're gonna have to get real close.
They're gonna have all the bullets.
You're gonna lean in. I got 1 bullet.
Yeah, they're probably going to have, 30 or 40 bullets. So,
yeah, I kind of find it illogical to try to blame it on a gun type. They should just say a gun. They shouldn't really try to chop it into little categories or handgun or rifle or a gun.
Well, a lot of times I think
is a very quick, deadly weapon.
I think it's just pandering to a certain crowd and what you've programmed those people to think and understand. So if you say an assault rifle, people instantly, they think of the worst, atrocities of war and stuff where, people are just getting mowed down. And that's easy. It gets people scared. And that's probably what they understand, know from movies like The Terminator or The Matrix or something. So I can see why they would try to say that. But at the same time, you can do the same thing with a handgun.
Well, yeah, I think they should probably just go ahead and just make it kind of an umbrella statement when they're talking about it, and just say guns and not try to say this gun or that gun. If they're going to talk about gun control, then I think they need to say gun. Yeah. And then I think they probably need to take the gun control out of the topic and maybe call it people control.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad you said that, because that was one of the things I was thinking about. Is I don't believe it's actually an issue with guns themselves. I think it's an issue with extremely light sentences for criminals. I think it's another big issue where, I don't remember the exact number now. I might get this off just a little bit. 94% of the mental health institutions in the U.S. have been closed down. There's now 94% less places that people with mental issues can go seek help or be sent for help. I'm not saying all those in the past were actually helping people. And I mean, obviously there'd be a lot of stuff that would have to be fixed with that. I don't know, would you call that an industry?
I agree. I don't think there's enough. I don't always think it's a mental defect. I think a lot of it could be emotional defect, which a lot of people confuse with a mental, with a genuine mental illness or a mental diagnosis. is different from an emotional problem, which a lot of people have, which are fleeting. A mental diagnosis you're going to have, and it's going to need treatment all of the time. Things like schizophrenia or, manic depression.
Oh, that is
a lot of different things. A lot of things that happen, they're emotionally driven, and people can be, like recently, the young men that were involved in some of that, they're emotionally devoid of morals, standards, feelings for whatever reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Emotional things you kind of go in and out of, but it's, it's because of a lot of reasons, because you weren't raised with morals or standards or raised to understand what repercussions were or what irreversible things are. And then let's face it, kids are shitty. When you're in school, kids are cruel to each other. So there's a lot of emotional damage that people suffer.
Right.
That, they could turn into mental problems on down the line I think there's a lot of, oops, screen's black again.
Why?
I don't know.
Oh, there we are.
Yes, I think there's a lot more human issue than there are. It's kind of like something stupid that I say at work.
What do you say? Can you say what you say at work?
I always say, as an analyst or someone that defines something, it is not defined as this until I say so.
Okay, could you explain a little more on that? I mean, you don't have to go into great detail.
I define an issue.
Okay.
And I give it a name. Well, the person next to me, because some things are similar, may give it a different name.
Oh, okay.
So,
I see, yeah.
It's not that until I say it's that.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of the same way with guns. Yes, it is a deadly weapon, but it's not until that person picks up their weapon of choice is it meant for murder, to harm another human being. Until that person makes that decision.
Yeah, whether it's going to be an offense or a defense.
A gun laying on a table isn't a deadly weapon until the human hand that picks it up decides what to do with that weapon. So why are we so focused on what kind of a gun? Who gives two poops? What if it's a bow and arrow? What if it's a hand grenade? What if it's a car you drive into a crowd? Some people like to choke people out. There's been many serial killers in the past that have, strangling was their MO.
Yeah.
It's not a weapon or a deadly weapon until that person literally lays their hands on whatever it is and decides to do whatever they're going to do with it. If that makes any weird sense.
No, that makes really good sense. And actually, I'm really glad that you brought up the fact that there is a difference between, which I hadn't even thought about this before until you said it. There's a difference between an emotional problem and a mental problem.
Yeah. It happens more domestically than anything. And it's like you see problems between families or neighbors, and you could be married for 40 years and you could be a law-abiding citizen, a churchgoer, a great dad, a great this, a great that. You find out your wife is going to leave you, or she's cheating on you or something like that, and you're feeling so hurt and so desperate. You may, in a fit of rage or what they call, a crime of passion, you're so emotionally damaged, you're not mentally ill. You go into a state of emotion that you can't get out of. And that is a legal defense. Crime of passion. You make a split decision. You're not planning it. It's not premeditated. And you can use that as a criminal defense. So that's an emotional situation. And I think that needs treated just as much as a mental issue.
Right.
Because yes, one can turn into the other, but if you have no history of that behind you, and you can literally get upset enough to go out and want to, mow down a whole herd of people in that circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is a clear difference between those two things. And I think that trying to blame it on a certain subset of weapons is kind of foolish. I really like the fact that they should start doing something more detailed at a younger and younger age for people in general, to help them, educate them more, and try to instill more.
Well, I think too, we've got another issue where I would say maybe in the last decade or so, I could be off a little bit or a lot of bit. I think in the last decade too, I think there's been so much people when they have an emotional issue or a mental issue, rather than recognizing that. And again, that might be why there's so many hospitals that used to attempt to help with stuff like that are no longer around. But here, like I said, probably in the last decade or so, maybe even longer, it seems like everybody is on board with saying, oh, well, no, you're okay. You're completely fine. You're brave. You're different. Which I'm down with saying you're different, which, yeah, people are different. But to tell them that it's okay or that you're brave and not actually try to help with the issue, which I know is kind of going just a hair bit off topic. But again, when you look at suicide murder rates among some of these people where you're just like, oh, yeah, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just being brave, or you're just different. I don't think that's really helping anybody.
Yeah, I don't find that a lot of the medication that they prescribe helps a lot either. I think they're way off base with a lot of that.
Yeah,
I think if you're genuinely missing a chemical makeup in your system and they can add to it or compensate for it with a drug, I think that's a different story. But to say somebody has anxiety and then you give them Xanax, you're kind of going to add to their anxiety a little bit more. Or you're going to bum them out, or you're going to make them sleep. I don't think those things treat the issue. I don't think pumping somebody full of antipsychotic medicine helps anything.
No.
I think recognizing what's failing in somebody's life and trying to fortify that, not with medicine, not with some bullshit therapy session. And you certainly don't want to lock, when you lock somebody up or you hospitalize them or put them in a clinical setting because of an emotional issue, you kind of give them a pass to use that as a crutch, and you kind of make them think that they've got something wrong with them, when literally it might just be because they have been treated like, they haven't been treated right in their life. It
could just be a simple, and I hate to simplify things, it'd just be a lack of family values or something, something really basic. And well, I guess what we consider basic or simple or just common, I guess in a lot of scenarios, situations, maybe it's not common. But so back to the gun thing, which, it all kind of plays into it. Obviously if a person is going to make the decision that I'm going to go shoot up a school, which I hate to just be so blunt about it, there's something obviously wrong there. And I don't think it just happens in a split second where they make that decision. I think it is something they're planning it. There's got to be signs. If somebody's paying attention to it and cares about that person, enough, I think they should be able to catch that soon enough. Likewise, again, this reform bill, I don't see this reform bill touching any of those issues. I am totally for putting in place what people refer to as hardening schools, where put in security, put in. I mean, I'm sure you can find plenty of sane ex-military that would be glad to go and protect. I didn't mean to say mechs. That sounds really bad with what just happened, but I'm sure you could probably, pay for ex-military $100,000 a year to make sure nothing goes wrong at this school. And they'll do it all day long, and they will probably be some of the best trained people you can possibly get for this. And I'm pretty sure somebody will think twice before they even think about messing. The same thing with public areas. So obviously I don't want to compare the US to other countries, but if we want to compare the US to other countries, so even just the homicide by gun violence in the US puts the US, I think it's like well below 10 or 14 out of all countries. So it's not really, it's bad. Any violence of any sort is bad, but we're not even top of the list per capita. We're actually pretty low. But let's just say, take a place like Italy, for instance. If you go to the airport in Italy, so here you'll see TSA here and there. Outside, you'll see the rent-a-cop or whoever. If you go to Italy, you actually see their military is at their airport. Nobody's going to do anything stupid there.
So they know who their authority is.
Yeah. Likewise, if you go,
power
understand.
Yeah.
It's definitely different here.
Yeah, and so let's just say, like, if you go downtown in like Venice or somewhere, there's military patrolling the streets. They're not there to intimidate people. They're not there to. They're there to make sure that if something goes wrong, that they're there to protect people. Which I felt much safer. Like, there's a city close to us, which they have this really cool canal that you can go walk. But there's so much crap that happens. There's like, I wouldn't even want to walk that during the day. Now, if let's just say we had National Guard, military, whatever, patrolling that area, I would feel 100 times better being there. Likewise, if we had a patrol car that came in front of our house, every half hour or so, I'd feel better about that. So the people that are defund the police or get rid of police, and that part's just crazy. And again, it goes back to what the topic of the... Did it go black again?
I think this show is haunted.
It might be. We don't know. Possible.
I'm pretty positive.
Power off.
Why?
I don't know. It's starting to freak me out. I'm enjoying it.
Almost like something's going wrong.
It's almost like it.